And just so we're on the same page, the whole SNAP cut thing is bad. I want to make it very clear just how bad. This is the first time in the program's 61-year history that benefits haven't been paid out during a government shutdown. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, also known as food stamps, has been a real support system for millions of Americans who need it. 42 million Americans depend on it to meet their basic food needs each and every day. This is about 12% of the overall population. The state with the largest number of residents on food stamps is New Mexico, with a whopping 21% of the population, followed closely by Louisiana and Oregon, both at each 18%. 16 million of the people on food stamps are children. 8 million are seniors, and 4 million are adults of working age with disabilities. Most households getting SNAP benefits include children and the elderly. We're talking people under the age of 18 and over the age of 60. SNAP is actually one of the most efficient government programs there is. Every dollar of SNAP benefits paid out returns $1.54 in economic stimulus. So yeah, I guess cutting off that kind of return is a great idea. If you're dumb. Look, there's a lot of talk about red versus blue when it comes to food stamps, and to be honest, it is kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly who's going to be hurt more by cuts to SNAP benefits, which also, why is that even an argument that we're having? What we do know is that 45% of households that get food stamps are white, 27% are black, and 21% are Hispanic. So, you do the math. 82% of adults and 97% of children who receive food stamps were born in the United States. And no, that doesn't mean that the remainder are illegal aliens who are getting government benefits, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But right now, what we're looking at is 42 million Americans, or 12% of the United States population, getting benefits they need to survive. Cutting that number has been a long-term goal of the Republican Party. The GOP yelled at us in interviews for months when the media asked them about cutting government benefits, and then they went ahead and they cut government benefits. They did so through the childishly named Big Beautiful Bill that's going to cut SNAP by $187 billion over the next 10 years. That amounts to a cut of 20%, which is the largest single cut to the program in American history. Analysis from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities estimates that at least 4 million people will struggle to eat because of these cuts. And there's a long history here, like I said. Republicans continually cite fraud as the main reason they want to cut these programs. They're always trying to convince us that there's just so much money to be saved somehow, somewhere, and all the money they save should for some reason go directly to the top 1%. So let's address the fraud claim, because big surprise, there isn't any. If there was, you know for a fact that Elon Musk would have told us. Because Elon just had to turn with all the data while his army of 10-year-old kids tried their damnedest to find anything even remotely concerning or indicative of mass fraud at all. And we still aren't sure if they took all of everyone's data legally or not, or how much of it they have. And I'm thinking that it wasn't legal, but maybe we'll never know because nobody seems to know. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins went on Fox News recently to defend the SNAP cuts and made some absolutely unhinged claims about the program there. She said all kinds of truly insane and nonsense, with all of it without any basis or evidence at all. And then the only actual data she eventually came out with was that they'd arrested about 100 people for fraud. 100 people. 100 people out of 42 million people. In a situation where Republicans are dying to find that fraud so they have an excuse to cancel programs they've hated for decades. You guys, arrest my case. Your Honor, the defense rests. The other thing is that I feel like people just grossly overestimate the money that people get when they have SNAP benefits. I think this is just really despicable, but the messaging is always telling us to be mad at these so-called freeloading grifters getting free money and living large. Because these people are struggling. These people are your neighbors. They're your friends. They're your family. Maybe these people are you. And let's just set the record straight, because in order to qualify for SNAP, as a family of 4, you have to have an annual household income of less than $32,000. Just imagine trying to live on that with 4 people in your house. And then just 17% of people who get food stamps live in households with income above the poverty line. The estimated average monthly SNAP payment in 2026 is $188 per person. Try really hard to spend only that much on food for a month and see what you come up with. Just was a fun experiment. Or if you're a household, try out the average $350 that whole families get each month. Good luck with that. Good luck, I believe in you. The truth is that there are very stringent rules to be eligible for SNAP. For one thing, able-bodied adults aged 18 to 64 without kids under 14 can only get food stamps for 3 months every 3 years. And there are already work requirements in place for SNAP benefits despite what Republicans will tell you. Now they're just going to be much more severe. And of course, you cannot be an illegal alien and get benefits. This simply does not happen and has never happened. You need a social security number for one, and they don't have one of those. There are actually legal non-citizens who do get SNAP benefits in very special cases that are carefully monitored. But this is such a negligible amount of people, it's just ridiculous to even fight about. Just like we're talking about amounts of money that are so insanely trivial, $188 a person, and it's absurd because it's actually not even almost enough in the first place. And yet, our orange god king and the GOP are using the government shutdown right now as an excuse to cut benefits for working Americans, which is a long-term Republican goal. They've been trying to cut the social safety net for decades. The big, beautiful bill really finally did that. I'd go as far as to say that I think it's genuinely evil, in as much as I think that humans can be evil, not really in any biblical sense, but from the standpoint of moral responsibility to one another. I think it's evil that Republicans continue to dehumanize people who need financial help in our society. We are built atop a cutthroat Gilded Age reality show survival competition, and the only people who win do so accidentally because they inherit all their money from their parents, and then sit around complaining about the rest of us and plotting the best ways to transfer all of our assets to them too. Instead of reliving that status quo each and every time we have a policy debate, I personally think the thing to do is realize that there's a whole lot more of us than there are of the 1%. And they don't actually have any skills, because they work far less than the rest of us, especially the imagined welfare queens they dredge up in the media time and time again. We can absolutely outsmart and outmaneuver these wealthy parasitic disciples of supply-side Jesus. And we've seen this, because the obstacle is money. But we've already seen a few times now what real grassroots campaigns can do to get people excited about making real change that benefits real everyday Americans. We just need a whole lot more of that. We need better political messaging on the progressive left, and that's also happening. Because reality sure does have a left-wing bias, because a lot of left-wing policies happen to be based on reality. And we need to use that to our advantage, and make sure that nobody ever forgets it. Especially when it comes to making sure that the most vulnerable among us can eat food. There should never in a million years be a question about that. So get out there and put pressure on your elected representatives so that they don't cave to Republicans who demand that we starve children and grandparents, and all in order to make them richer. Let's do some f***ing good out there for people who need some help right now. Because I'll tell you a secret. We're all gonna need some help at some point. I'll see you next time.